The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers. This is the TF Geek coming to you with what will successfully be a short but informative review. And today we're going to be taking a look at a Transformers action figure I was originally going to pass up, but I decided a couple of weeks ago to change my mind, and I figured why not get the figure. So here it is, the Transformers 1 mainline deluxe class prime changers Alpha Trion. So yeah, this is the first and currently only action figure of Alpha Trion based on his appearance in the Transformers 1 film. It has since been confirmed that next year in 2026 Alpha Trion will be given a larger Voyager class sized figure in the Studio Series line. But for now, I decided to get the Prime Changer because most reviews I've seen from other collectors who decided to get Alpha Trion when he first came out last year in 2024, there's been mostly good things about him. That said, he's not the greatest action figure of Alpha Trion. The general consensus from most fans and collectors is that Alpha Trion is an okay Transformers action figure. He's not lousy by any means, but he's not a figure that you should do whatever it takes to add to your Transformers collection. He's not a top-tier desired Transformers action figure, but he's still decent enough for being a version of him from the Transformers 1 film. Hasbro and the film producers who worked on Transformers 1 surprised Transformers fans everywhere when they decided to have Alpha Trion's alternate mode be a mechanical lion. The first time Alpha Trion had a mechanical lion for his alt mode was in the Titans Return line back in 2016. Ian Hasbro, every Voyager class figure that was released in the Titans Return line were all triple changers, and Hasbro surprised Transformers fans and collectors everywhere by making one of Titans Return Alpha Trion's two alternate modes a robotic lion. In the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, Alpha Trion never actually transformed into an alt mode, and so the type of vehicle mode Alpha Trion possesses has always been disambiguous and left open to the fans of Transformers, the minds of Transformers fans and collectors. But then, starting in 2005, the first ever action figure of Alpha Trion was released at BotCon, and that figure was a repaint of the Transformers Cybertron Vector Prime action figure. Vector Prime, a couple years ago, got a new Voyager class figure in the Legacy line, and because Alpha Trion was his first ever action figure was a repaint with a new head sculpt of Cybertron Vector Prime, along with the fact that in his animated appearance in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, Alpha Trion had a kind of cape hanging off of his back that looked like a pair of wings, and in the Transformers comic books he was given his cape, his double-flapped cape was actually turned into a pair of wings. For most Transformers fans, Alpha Trion's alt mode was a Cybertronian jet due to the fact that he never actually went to Earth and never scanned an Earth vehicle mode for his alt mode. And so a vast majority of the handful of Alpha Trion action figures that have been released over the years have been in Cybertronian jets. Sometimes Alpha Trion is a new mold. There have been, I believe, I think there is more than one Alpha Trion action figure that's mold mates with action figures based off of Generation 1 Scourge. So between Titans Return Alpha Trion and now Transformers 1 Alpha Trion, him having a a beast mode for his alt mode, that's definitely a breath of fresh air for most Transformers fans and collectors. So yeah, Alpha Trion's alt modes are starting to get a little more diverse now that there's at least two versions of him that have a lion beast mode for his alt mode. So here's Alpha Trion inside his box. And for the designs of the Transformers 1 characters, Alpha Trion, he's definitely the most, for lack of better vocabulary, the most alien-looking of them all. Also, most Transformers fans have probably seen the Transformers 1 film by now. Transformers 1 has gotten mostly positive reviews on it. That said, overall, it performed moderately successful at the box office. It wasn't a blockbuster film, unfortunately. But for those who haven't watched the film, basically Alpha Trion, he was the only one of the 13 primes who survived being betrayed by the character of Sentinel Prime. Sentinel Prime wanted to be ruler over all of Cybertron, so he decided to murder the 13 original primes to take control of the planet. But Sentinel Prime's plan to be Emperor of the Transformers was thwarted by the fact that Alpha Trion barely managed to survive, and he barely had enough energon inside of him to survive in a somewhat state of hibernation until Orion Pax, along with his friends D-16, B-127, and Alita-1, came and found him and rescued him, and they brought him back to life enough, but Alpha Trion was severely weak to return with them and continue fighting due to a battle with Sentinel Prime, Iron Man, the Quintessons. But Alpha Trion was able to let Orion Pax and the other Transformers know that Sentinel Prime was a traitor to the Transformers, and he gave them all transformation cogs from some of the other 13 primes to give them alt modes, and that Alpha Trion told them there's no such thing as a Transformer that is created without a transformation cog. All Transformers, naturally when they're created, at the start of their existence, have the ability to transform into an alt mode. So yeah, Alpha Trion had a pretty major, for the brief screen time that he has in the Transformers 1 film, he played the major role in revealing the truth about Sentinel Prime actually being a villain instead of a hero. And for me personally, Alpha Trion has always been one of my favorite Transformers characters, and I babbled on a lot more than I wanted to. So one last thing that I will say, which I could have waited until we got Alpha Trion out of his box, but in the Transformers Generation 1 film, Alpha Trion was left for dead for such a long amount of time. One of his horns cracked off the top, and he was covered in dirt, and that's why here for the box art on the side of his box and the image of his lion mode here on the front of the box, his lion's mane is actually covered in a layer of dirt and I believe plant moss due to the fact that he was sitting in a cave along with the corpses of his fellow primes for such a long time. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't go for that. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm actually glad that they didn't go with the screen-accurate, almost dead appearance here for Alpha Trion's mainline Prime Changer Deluxe Class action figure, and they made him look like he still was before Sentinel Prime's betrayal in the battle with the Quintessons that nearly destroyed him. Let him see, I do enjoy that. So here on the back of the box, you got Alpha Trion in his robot mode and his alt mode of a mechanical lion, and he transforms back and forth between both modes in just 15 steps. And that's pretty much it for him while he's in the box. Let's hurry up and get him out of the box and take a close look at him in robot mode. Alright, and so here is Alpha Trion out of his box and transformed into his robot mode. One thing I do enjoy is the film producers acknowledge the fact that Alpha Trion is supposed to be elderly by actually giving him a limited articulated joints compared to other Transformers characters. For instance, Alpha Trion's hands, they're permanently sculpted, attached to his arms in one position, so there's no hand articulation. His head is on a ball joint, but due to his prominent chin, he can only look left and right so much before he starts to tilt upward. He can look upward very far, but he can't really look down because his chin gets in the way. He does have a waist swivel, which is fairly good. He does have a shoulder joint, but due to how the ball socket sits almost entirely in the center of the shoulder, you can't really get too much articulation out of it. But he does at least have a bicep swivel on the on the bottom of the arm, right above the elbow. Base of the upper arm is what I was trying to say. Hinge jointed elbows, ball jointed hips, so his legs can go forward this far. They can go back this far. If you can get it if you can move his cape out of the way. The legs go outward this far, so Alpha Trion can not quite do a full split. But it's a fairly decent range of articulation. Swivel joint at the base of the thigh, right above the hinge joint on the knee. He does have ankle articulation, so you can get him into a sprawl-legged pose. And due to how he transforms arms. Alpha Trion, there's no articulation in the toes at the front of his foot, but the heel spurs, when you transform into lion mode, they flip all the way up, so just be mindful that if you put too much pressure on Alpha Trion, his heel spurs could give out and he could end up falling back down. And I think that's one of the gripes that a lot of fans and collectors have with Alpha Trion, is that his heel spurs don't really lock into place, and they could go at a moment's notice. If you go both of them, Alpha Trion does have the potential to end up falling backward. And part of that has to do with the fact that his cape, which is made by the two halves of his beast mode lion's head, and it sticks out very far back, and so a lot of Alpha Trion's weight is on the back of him, and it's supported by these heel spurs that want to flip out. So that's a little bit of a design flaw, I personally believe, with the Transformers 1 version of Alpha Trion. But other than that, I really enjoy how he came out. I love the metallic, almost like indigo, that's used as a vast majority for his paint job. One thing that even though it is screen accurate, one thing I wish they would have done is given Alpha Trion just a little bit more red parts, just like he traditionally has. Traditionally, Alpha Trion has been red, white, and blue, just like Optimus Prime, Ultra Magnus, and most of the heroic Autobot characters. But overall, I still enjoy how he came out. For Alpha Trion's accessory pieces, he comes with a sword and a dagger. The sword is the reason why it's shaped like a lightning bolt is because in the Transformers 1 film, Alpha Trion, he didn't have a physical weapon, he just shot bursts of electricity from him, and so they replicated that by giving him a dagger and a sword with energy E-blades instead of blades made out of metal. Another reason why it's shaped like a bolt of lightning is because the larger sword is because it forms Alpha Trion's Lion's Mode tail, and that's one thing about Alpha Trion, is that this was true for his Titan's Return action figure as well. He doesn't just transform into a lion. In somewhat of an oddity, he transforms into a horned lion. So yeah, Alpha Trion he's a lion that has a unicorn's horn on his forehead. In the film, that was another way of being able to shoot electricity out of him while he was in beast mode also, but that's one thing I've never really enjoyed, is that they made him a horned lion. I think Alpha Trion would still be a pretty cool lion without the unicorn or rhino's horn on his forehead. But yeah, just so you know, if you do end up losing the accessory pieces, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if 5, 10, 15 years from now, copies of Alpha Trion appear on the internet at used that are being sold with the lion's tail and the lion's horn missing, and him having a head in the top center of his lion's forehead and being tailless just because those parts of his beast mode are his weapons. So, considering what it is, I'm on the forgiving side, and I actually genuinely believe this is a pretty decent action figure of Alpha Trion. This figure is special to me personally because I looked on the Transformers Wikipedia at all of the Alpha Trion action figures that I have in my Transformers collection, and this right here, the Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Prime Changer mainline Alpha Trion action figure, this has become the first and only Deluxe Class sized Alpha Trion figure that I have in my Transformers collection. Most of the Alpha Trion action figures, which aren't much, I think TF1 Alpha Trion, he might be the 7th out of 8 Alpha Trion action figures that I now have in my Transformers collection. But he is the first Deluxe Class. Most Alpha Trion figures that I do have are Voyager Class size, since Voyager Class is the typical size class that Alpha Trion is given action figures in. I have 2 figures that are smaller than a Deluxe. That's 2 Alpha Trion action figures, but yeah, this is the first and currently only Deluxe Class Alpha Trion figure that I have in my Transformers collection, so it is great fun to now have a Deluxe Class sized Alpha Trion action figure here in my collection. So for some quick size comparisons, here is Alpha Trion next to the figure that I actually was in the review I recorded right before him. Here is the TF1 Deluxe Class Prime Changer mainline Orion Pax action figure. So yeah, fairly size accurate. They stand the exact same height since they're the same size, but although Orion Pax is meant to be in a permanent sprawl-legged pose since his feet are angled outward, so standing at this height he does stand slightly shorter than Alpha Trion, which is kind of appropriate due to the fact that in the Transformers 1 film, Alpha Trion, since he was a member of the 13 Primes, he did stand slightly taller than the average-sized Transformers such as Orion Pax. And for another size comparison, here he is next to Sentinel Prime, the Autobot, who unfortunately murdered his fellow 13 Primes and almost tried to murder him, and Alpha Trion still holds a grudge against Sentinel Prime for trying to murder him. Was that really necessary? Okay. Well, anyways, with that out of the way, Alpha Trion, he didn't survive to the end of the film. He did end up, unfortunately, having to sacrifice himself in order for Orion Pax and the others to escape the Quintessons and Sentinel Prime's own troops. Oops, but thanks to Alpha Trion, the truth about Sentinel Prime's betrayal was exposed to Cybertron. Tragically, D16, Orion Pax's best friend, ended up becoming Megatron and created the Decepticons, but Orion Pax, thankfully, was granted the Matrix of Leadership by Alpha Trion and the other Primes, and he became Optimus Prime, the next bearer of the Matrix of Leadership. So, that's pretty much all there is to say about TF1 Alpha Trion, so let's get him transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Transformers 1 Alpha Trion in his alt mode of a horned lion, and yeah, I really like how Alpha Trion turned out. The knee joint, the upper knee joint for the back of the lion legs, on this leg it's really loose, on this one it's fairly tight. But yes, it's overall, for what they were going for, trying to give Alpha Trion a clean-cut look, I think they did a fairly good job of it. Like I said earlier in the review, I actually enjoyed that they went for the clean-cut look before Sentinel Prime's betrayal to show what Alpha Trion originally looked like before he was left to die in the cavern, in the cave covered in moss and dirt. I think the studio series is going to the upcoming Voyager-class studio series. That's what I was trying to say. I think they are going for more screen-accurate look, where, just like for the box art, Alpha Trion is covered in dirt and rusting. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty nice-looking beast mode. Alpha Trion's in a permanent snarling look, where the sides of his mouth are opened up. I kind of wish they would have made the mouth of the lion mode able to open and shut the lower jaw. It looks like they were almost going to, because it's got the sculpted detailing right here at the top of his neck, where it could have hinged up and down at least, but the head's permanently locked in place. The only movement he has is with his legs. The front legs can go forward and backwards somewhat, but again, articulation is somewhat limited. But yeah, overall, a pretty decent lion mode for Alpha Trion. And again, for some size comparisons, here he is next to the mainline deluxe class Orion Pax figure. So yeah, in robot mode, they were just about the same height. Orion Pax, I made him shorter by spreading his legs out. But in alt mode, Alpha Trion is definitely much larger than Orion Pax. I don't believe lions are larger than trucks in real life, than most trucks in real life. But yeah, pretty Alpha Trion looks pretty imposing next to Orion Pax, which is somewhat appropriate considering the fact that he's one of the 13 original Primes. And for a size comparison, here he is next to Sentinel Prime, the bot who tried to murder him, and you promised you were going to be calm, you remember that, right? You're going to ignore me and attack him, aren't you? Hey, will you stop it? Hey, come on. Sorry about that. Alpha Trion's never forgiven Sentinel Prime for his betrayal, and so whenever he sees him, he just has to attack him, so trying to keep Alpha Trion calm for the last few moments of the video. Yeah, pretty decent looking a beast mode. As I said, this is only the second time Alpha Trion has had a mechanical lion for his alt mode. Oh, the first time was Titan's Return. But as I said, even though most oftentimes Alpha Trion has been portrayed having a Cybertronian jet for his alt mode, because in the Generation 1 cartoon series he never actually was shown transforming into an alt mode, it's been left up to the imagination to... It's been left open to decide what Alpha Trion's alternate mode could be, so him being a mechanical lion, well, it's not been done before. It has been done before, Transformers 1, and it's not something new. It's something that is uncommon, so whether or not this will open the floodgates for Alpha Trion to have more diverse alt modes in the future is uncertain at this point, but yeah, it's pretty nice looking. I originally was going to pass on TF1 Alpha Trion because he had a lion instead of a Cybertronian jet for his alt mode, but all things considered, I do not regret adding him to my Transformers collection. So for the final proverbial question, do I recommend getting the Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Mainline Prime Changer Alpha Trion action figure and adding it to your Transformers collection? I only recommend getting this action figure if you're a fan of both Alpha Trion and the Transformers 1 film. If you aren't necessarily a fan of the Transformers 1 movie, then this version of Alpha Trion can be an easy pass. And if you're only a fan of Alpha Trion, then it's up to you to decide if you like the fact that he has a mechanical lion for his alt mode instead of his typical alt mode of a Cybertronian jet. And so, while he's not a must-have Transformers action figure, I do enjoy having Alpha Trion in my Transformers collection now, so I am happy that I changed my mind and decided to get him. So, to answer my own question, yes, I do recommend getting Alpha Trion if you want to have a deluxe class-sized action figure Alpha Trion in your Transformers collection. But if you're not completely interested in this particular version of Alpha Trion, then he can be an easy pass. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TF Fan Geek, and until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.